everybody, this is Pretty from It's a Pretty World. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm using this mighty hand stamp set called Joy to the World. This is a newer stamp set from their release, which was just done in October. I think October 24th was their release, and they released some really beautiful stamps, and I'm using this one here to make a night scene with some carolers singing under a beautiful lit up snowy evening. So what I'm starting off with is by creating a circle in the center of this white cardstock. The white cardstock that I'm using is Simon Says Stamps 120-pound smooth cardstock. This is a beautiful cardstock to use Copic markers on. The surface of the paper is so smooth that it really helps to blend the colors of the Copic marker very easily. It does not absorb into paper quickly enough, so it just stays wet enough on the top so you can blend the colors. That's kind of my understanding. I don't know if that is true, but when I've done this so much now, it feels like that's what's happening, and that's the reason why I love this paper so much. So I'm stamping the string of lights, which is in the stamp set, on the top of the circle that I created in an angle. Now I do have a little bit of hangover on both the sides of the circle, and that's perfectly fine, and that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted the images to hang out of the circle, and as I'm coloring you will see what exactly I mean by that. And then I'm taking these three little carolers. I'm sorry that my stamp magic is so low down from the video and you can't really see. So the carolers, I'm placing them right at the edge of the circle in the bottom part of it. So they too are hanging on either side and a little bit at the bottom edge. Not a whole lot, but just a little bit. And I'm just stamping them again using the Simon Says Stamp Intense Black Ink. I don't know if I said that all earlier. This is a good ink for Copic coloring. And once I was done with all that, I started to Copic color. I do have the pencil line there, so I can really see exactly how much far I need to go when I'm coloring, but you can't really see it, but it is there. So for the bulbs itself, I started off with Y38 in the center of the bulb, and I just created a little line right in the top center of the bulb. So I didn't really color the entire bulb yellow, but just a tiny bit, and left most of the bulb clear to give it that clear yellow bulb look. And then I took Y15 and I blended that Y30 out a bit. Once I was done, I was ready to create the glow for these bulbs. So for the glow, I started with the darkest color, which was Y38, and the edge of the bulb. So you see the black outline of the bulb, so right on that edge is where I laid Y38, a very thin line of Y38. And once I was done laying Y38, I blended that with Y15, and then I blended that with Y11 to fade it out a bit. I have to tell you, I am not a Copic colorist, or I haven't learned anything. These are all things that I have learned by seeing other artists, by maybe taking a few classes here and there for coloring, but most of these things are stuff that I do on my own. I keep playing with different colors, I keep experimenting with different things, and that's how I figured most of the things. And some of the things, of course, I do learn a couple of things from Kitten Clowder, which is a beautiful, if you're ever thinking of taking Copic coloring classes, it is a very good class. Elise does a beautiful job teaching, wonderful job teaching. She's patient, she's kind, she's gentle, and she's a good teacher, and I really like her classes. So I've learned a lot from Kitten Clowder as well. So anyway, going back to what I was doing, after I've done doing the coloring of the bulbs, it was time to do the night sky. So I started off with a darker shade first, which was BV08, and I laid it right on the top, and then I brought the B18 and I brought it down to the top edge of the string of lights. And then once I was getting in between the lights, I just laid a very tiny bit of B8 in between between those bulbs, and then I blended it very lightly as well with B16 and then with B14. But as I kept blending, I used a lot more of the lighter color in between the bulbs and just a little bit underneath the bulb. And the reason for that is when the light is shining on an object, or it's even when there's bulbs shining around it, the surrounding of the bulbs is going to look quite light. It's not going to look intense blue. So that anything that's behind the bulb and when you're in front of the light, you're not going to see the same intensity of the color that you would see without the lights out there, right? I don't know if it makes sense. So my idea was that the light around the bulb was glowing, and so the dark sky behind it was not looking as dark, but the top half of it was not near the bulb. Now you keep in mind the bulb is not exactly touching the sky, it's hanging somewhere in midair. The sky is way behind in the horizon, you can see it. So but the bulb is going to create that glow wherever it is lit up, so you won't be able to see the sky through it in the same way you would see without any light in between it. I don't know if I'm making any sense there, but that's what I was trying to do. So as I'm coloring and I'm going as I'm getting away from the you can see as I'm getting away from the bulb, the color gets darker. As I get close to the bulb, the color gets lighter. And for some reason the image on the camera looks like there are lines of yellow, but actually it is a glow, and it looks quite it looks like a line there, as if a streaky line, yellow line, but actually it's a blended out glow. Again, it may be because I may not have blended it enough. That could be a reason, I don't know, but that's how it's looking right here. But anyway, so I started to bring the darker color downwards. So from the light I started going downwards, creating a darker background, creating the dark sky behind the carolers. So again, I took B18 and then I took BV08 and I ended it to the bottom. So now you can see it makes sense for me. So just that night sky is what I wanted to be highlighted within that circle, and all the other things were like hanging out. I kind of like that look of creating images. I do this very often, either with my Copic coloring or even with just simple stamping too. I sometimes like things out of the edge, not exactly being within the edges of whatever shape you're doing. Anyway, so I'm starting to blend the colors again. Now I'm blending from darker to lighter. So the darkest is BV08 at the bottom, and then B18 and B16 and B14 and B12. Now the blend is not exactly smooth, and that's perfectly fine, because for what I'm going to do next, the blend was not needed to look as fine as it should be. And then I took this Y0000 and I just went over the glow once again, just to make sure that it looked nice and glowy. Now it was time to color the girls. I had some color on her cap, so I'm just taking a zero pen and then just kind of removing that color a bit. And then for the first girl, for her skin, I chose a darker skin tone. I'm erasing the pencil marks, and then I started coloring her skin tone. And for the first girl, I did E25 as the darkest color, E13 and E11. And for her beautiful cheeks, I did R22, and her mouth was open, so I added R22 inside her mouth as well. Now I usually like to do my skin color a couple of times so that it shows a richness, but these images are so small, there was not much that I could do, so I just kind of went back again, but it wasn't really necessary to go back again on the same thing once again. For the second girl, I went with a really lighter shade of E's. I think it was E11 E00 and E000, something like that. I think so, I'm not very sure. And for the girl 3, sorry, actually it's E13 and E11 and E00 is what is for girl number 3 and I've marked it wrong, but in the description below I'll have the actual colors that I have really used. And then I started to color their hair. So the girl in the middle, I colored her as a blonde hair, and I used E25 YR24 YR21 and YR31. You really don't need so many colors because it's such a small area. I could have just got away with E25 and YR24 or something like that, and that should have been fine. And for the girl on the last end, is I colored her as red hair, and for her I used E19 YR68 and YR14. Again, the images are really small, so you don't really need a whole lot of colors to do the hair. I just use them. Now if you were using a bigger image, these are really good colors to use for different hair. Now the girl on the far end, that's on the right, on the left side, I decided to give her some beautiful curly braided hair. So what I did was I took C7, I did some squiggly lines and like squiggly curvy squiggly lines all over her hair, as if like she has braids all over it. And then I took the darker shade of brown, which was, in my case it was E37, and then I blended it with the E57, and that kind of gave it like a braided, curly braided hair, and it looked so cute. The images are so small that you can hardly see those details, but I promise you those details are there. That was time to color the koi books, the music books, and it was very simple. I just wanted a basic black book, so I started off with C7, the shadows, C5 and C3, because the book that's facing towards you, the place where it meets is going to be the lightest, and so I just kept the lighter shade C3 in the middle portion of the book. So it was really simple coloring of these koi books. And after I was done coloring the books, it was time to color their clothes, their warm winter wear. And for that I used I think it's B49, B57 and B53 for the blue tones, and for the greens I used just 2 shades of YG03 and G28. Oh no, I actually used 3 and G07 as well. And reds I used R27, 24 and 22. So I just kind of mixed and matched them on all the sides, and I created their little mittens and their little what you call caps and scarves and all the woolen warm stuff that they were wearing as they went out caroling in the snow. So I continued coloring each of the images, very basic coloring, nothing too fancy. I didn't do a lot of, because these images are so small, you don't really need to do a lot of blending. You lay the color, just go over it, and you should be fine. After I was done coloring and I saw the girl on the last, she felt too light for me, so I just kind of went with another layer of those same colors again. That's what I'm trying to say, is when you do the background, sometimes things do lighten up. And now what I'm doing is I'm adding the snow in the sky, and I'm starting to add, I took a white gel pen and I added the snow all over the girls, all over their face. Make sure when you're laying snow, you want to make sure that you're laying the snow on every object. Snow does not choose where it should fall. It falls all over the place. And I also made sure that I am using different sizes of dots, not just one size of dot, because when the snow is falling, you don't want all of them to be symmetrical. You want them to have variation as well. Then I took this little sentiment from the stamp set. It's called "Let the Earth Receive Her King," and I embossed it onto a white cardstock with red cardstock with white embossing, and fussy cut it. And I also added another sentiment onto black cardstock, and I fussy cut that, and I created a fishtail banner, and I popped that up on the top right corner, top left corner of the image. I also adhered that panel that I colored on top of this designer paper. This is an older designer paper that I had lying in my stash. I don't remember where it's from, and that was it. Hope you liked the video. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.